Happy Monday. Thank you for joining me for this week's Weekly Wisdom. Now, this week is a continuation of the past couple of weeks where we have been talking all about lessons learned from my daughter taking karate. And I hinted last week that we were going to talk about her teacher's reward system because it was absolutely amazing. The ability that this man has to get 5- and 6-year-old kids to listen to him and do exactly what he tells them is phenomenal, right? And if he can do it with a group of 5- or 6-year-olds, maybe we can learn something about what we can do as leaders to help our teams be more effective. And so I want to share with you his secret, what he does with the kids, and then how we can translate it for the adults, because we know that what works for kids doesn't always translate exactly for adults. Now, what he does is at the beginning of each class, he lets them know that if they do well, they will earn a stripe, and all he uses is colored electrical tape. If they don't do well, then they will lose a stripe. And whenever we first started, I was like, yeah, right, like he's going to take a stripe, right? This is the everybody gets a trophy world. And a couple of lessons later, there were some kids that just were not listening. I mean, you could tell he was beyond his limit. They were not listening. He took away a stripe. And it was mind-blowing for these kids. They didn't cry. They didn't lose their cool. They started doing exactly what he asked them to. By the end of class, they had earned their stripe back. And so at the end of class, these kids are getting immediate feedback as to whether they did a good job or whether they need to improve in things. And the coolest part about it, I'm a geek for this stuff, but the coolest part about it was that at the colored electrical tapes, the colors each have a different significance. So one color means that they focused really well. One color means that they were super determined. One color means that they listened really well. So he can personalize that experience to each child. Okay, now what does this teach us for adults? We can't use colored electrical tape to do rewards for adults, but we can give adults feedback. We can let them know when they're doing something well, when maybe it's not working as well. How can we tweak stuff? As a retail leader at Walt Disney World, my favorite part was at the end of the day because I could look, I could see, did we meet budgets? Were our guests happy? Were our cast members happy? If all 3 of these things hit, it was a great day. If our budget didn't hit, okay, let's do a couple of changes. Let's see if we can impact something. I took a recent certification course in CoreClarity, which is built off of the Gallup strengths. And I discovered an interesting bit of information. You see, 34% of adults show achiever as one of their top 5 strengths. This is a huge number because it's not even counting the adults that have it in 6 through 10, which is still influential strengths. And so what does achiever tell us? Well, achiever are those types that like to achieve. They have the checklist, they go through and check everything off. They have to feel accomplishment. 1 in 3 adults has this as one of their top 5 strengths. So as a leader, knowing this, and there's a good chance that you have some achievers on your team, what information can you give them to let them know that they did a good job? How can you reinforce positive behaviors? You don't have to give them anything, just give them feedback, have a conversation. When you say great job, make sure that you're telling them specifically what the great job was for. There's nothing in the world that is worse than putting your heart and soul into something and having it ignored or minimized. One of the most demoralizing experiences that I had was as a leader with Walt Disney World. I was working on 3rd shift and it was at World of Disney, which at the time was the biggest Disney store in the world. They had these huge, beautiful window displays that had all of the toys, and it acted as an advertisement for people walking by the windows. There was this one particular display that had a life-size, like human life-size, not doll life-size, of Woody and Jessie. Well, Woody had fallen off the wall and left a big gaping hole. I knew that the president of the company was going to be walking the next day. So got all of my cast members doing what they were doing, pulled a couple of cast members that had a really good eye, and we completely redid the window. It was stressful because this is not my strength, had to rely a lot on my cast members to help make it look attractive, and we didn't have all the resources that we needed because, again, it's 3rd shift. Nobody's there but us. The next morning, I stopped by my general manager's office and I'm like, hey, so just as a heads up, this was broken. We went ahead and fixed it. Should be good when the president walks. Her response was that the president wasn't going to be walking that side of the building. There was no thank you. There was no good job. There was nothing, but basically what I did didn't matter. How do you think that impacted me? I will tell you that it took out some of my oomph, some of my passion for what I was doing. Was I still passionate about doing a good job? Yes. But it took away that sparkle. And so what Vita's teacher has taught us, and what we ourselves understand, is that even adults need to know what is expected of them and what is a good job. What are some ways as leaders that you can get creative in giving them that immediate feedback through words, key performance indicators, budgets, whatever it looks like. Knowing that 1 in 3 of your employees is going to have the achiever strength. They're going to need to achieve. What can you do to help with that? And by the way, if you're interested in learning about your talents, your superpowers, reach out to me. I would love to do a one-on-one coaching session with you to help you better understand your top 5 talents. All right, everybody, that was this week's lesson. I will see you next week. As always, have an absolutely amazing week. My chihuahua just turned into a Rottweiler. Have an absolutely amazing week, and don't forget, you got this. I'll see you next week.